I'm currently assigned to our public information office. Just so everybody knows kind of how the flow of today is going to go, I wanted to give you all some ground rules. First of all, we are recording this meeting. This meeting link will be available after the conclusion of this meeting. I'll be monitoring the chat, but all questions, please save those until the very end. We'll get to those as the meeting concludes. Please make sure all questions are pertinent to the subject matter being discussed. Please, you could also utilize the raised hand feature. And if any questions we are unable to answer today, please include a point of contact and we will get that right back to you, okay? But without further ado, we'll get this presentation started and I turn it over to the Chief Fire Marshal for Arlington County, Chief Matthew Cobb.
Okay, thank you, Captain Heiner. Can everybody hear me?
Loud and clear.
Okay, all right, and everybody can see, hopefully, the presentation that's up currently on Teams. Right, Nate?
Looks good.
Okay. Again, thanks, everybody, for coming today and joining in for this presentation. And we wanted to try to get to as many of you who manage properties throughout the county with regards to multifamily dwellings as possible to just discuss and build a working relationship with regards to this particular topic, which are the charging rules as they apply to commercial micro mobility devices throughout the county. So this is a short presentation. It's only 6 or 7 slides. We'll actually talk about the code and how the code affects you as property management throughout the county. So without further ado, we'll get going. And I apologize if my voice breaks up a little bit or for the inadvertent cough, as allergy season seems to have arrived a little bit early for us. So, so let's proceed. First of all, we just want to talk a little bit about what the Virginia Statewide Fire Prevention Code is, especially with regards to this particular instance and how it applies to us here in Arlington County. Administratively, I think is important for everybody to understand is that aside from the statewide fire prevention code that all jurisdictions are responsible for adhering to and maintaining, the code allows the local jurisdiction, in this case Arlington, the ability to make some regulations that are more restrictive and more extensive in scope based on their geographic area, based on their density, based on best practices for that local jurisdiction. And why that's important is because if someone refers to just the statewide fire prevention code and we don't look at the Code of Arlington Fire Prevention Code in addition to that, you may not see this particular code section that we're going to discuss today. We're going to discuss Chapter 3. Chapter 3 are just general safety requirements. And again, I've highlighted here, it's just precautions against fire and the spread of fire and general requirements of fire safety. Okay, so that's the chapter we're going to focus on here today. The new section, or not the new section, but the section that was added in the Code of Arlington is Section 320. And what Section 320 discusses is the recharging and storage of personal electronic transportation devices. Again, this is our local regulation. 320.1, just in general, states that the recharging and storage of commercially owned personal electronic transportation devices, to include but not limited to scooters, skateboards, hoverboards, all classes of pedal and throttle assisted bicycles, and rollerblades, is prohibited in a multifamily dwelling. Right? So that's the important thing, and important for you as property management to understand, and we'll talk about your responsibilities here in the next couple minutes or seconds. There is an exception to those, and are not subject to the above requirements. That would be any wheelchairs or other ADA-related mobility aids or devices. and obviously traditional higher speed transportation bikes such as cars, buses, trucks, and motorcycles. We hope that nobody's charging something that large in their apartment, but just in case there's no, this does not preclude you or the building or property management at this point from having charging stations in your parking garages or anything along those lines. Personally owned electronic transportation devices are, as listed above, are permitted at one device per 200 square feet. Where do we get the 200 square feet from? 200 square feet is what is defined in the building code as the required square footage for one occupant in a residential style dwelling. Okay, so that's where that number is derived. Section 320.1.1 is the notification, and this is where this is what's important for your role as property management and why we wanted to have this meeting today, so that we can work together on this in a collaborative effort to make sure that we're informing your residents of this rule.
Chief Cobb, if I could interrupt, could you
Yes.
would you be able to advance the slide?
Oh, I'm
It's
sorry.
still showing the next. Yep, thank you.
I'm sorry, everybody. That's my fault. Thank you. Are we good, Captain Heiner?
Yes, sir.
Okay, my apologies. I'm looking at two different slide decks here. So to reiterate what I was just talking about, again, section 320.1 is general. It goes over what's allowed and what's not allowed. Section 320.1.1, which we're getting ready to talk about, is the actual notification. And what that states is the person in control or management agent of a multifamily residential occupancy shall notify their tenants or occupants in writing of the prohibitions outlined in section 320.1 of this code. Such notification shall occur when the tenant or occupant initially occupies, renews a lease, and periodically thereafter as may be necessary to ensure compliance. So again, to backtrack just a little bit is, we want to work together on this. We want to develop a relationship with all the property managers on this and any other topic. We'll talk about at the end, and Captain Heiner will also reemphasize where you can access this information and how you can get it out to your residents. But it's significantly important that you as property management notify your residents of these changes. This is just a brief pictorial, if you will, to help. And again, all this information is available on our website for you to print out and download and post. We do ask that after this presentation today and moving forward that you do post this in your common areas and your information bulletin boards or on your video display screens, however you communicate with your residents. We ask that you did pass this out. Again, this also went out on our through Facebook, through Twitter, through all of our social media accounts. So it has started to populate throughout the area. Again, commercial devices, so any of your birds or any of the other commercially owned e-bikes, micro-mobility devices such as your scooters are not to be charged inside of a residential high-rise. Your personal recreation devices, again, one per 200 square feet. And of course, any ADA or any mobility devices that are required by your residents are not covered under this particular code section. Excuse me. What's the purpose of the new regulation? The main reason is to reduce the potential impact of the increased fire loading in residential apartments and condominiums. Just some brief stats, if you will, if you're interested in stats. In 2021, New York City had 139 e-mobility device fires. In 2022, it increased to 214, and there's been 7 deaths as a result of those fires. In Arlington in 2022, we had 5 micromobility devices fires, and unfortunately, that's the only data that we have because we didn't start tracking it until 2022. So if you just take those numbers based on population, we're not talking about households or, we didn't go granular on this. For New York City, you're looking at about 1 fire per 62,800 people, okay? In Arlington, if you apply the same rules and same math, we're actually at 1 fire per 47,600 people. Okay, so we're actually, we're in line, and this is a trend that we're seeing across the nation. So we really want to try to curtail and prevent the increased potential of fire with these devices in as much as possible. At the same time, understanding and recognizing that these are common, and it's something that the community wants, but we just need to do that in a safe manner. Before we jump to the next section and talk about, what it is we are asking of you, the property management or property managers, is, we talk about fire load, and I just want to make sure in a very concise way that you understand what we're meaning. Your residential building, when it was designed, when it was tested, when it was engineered, was designed, whether you have sprinklers or not, which most of you now have sprinkler systems throughout your buildings. Those sprinkler systems, the fire alarm systems, the fire separation, those are all based on what we call a normal residential Class A type fire, right? Your normal fire that would include the clothes, the furnishings, and the materials inside of that apartment. When you talk about those fires, they're typically between 600 and 1,000 degrees. Sprinkler systems will hold those types of fires in check until the fire department can get there and fully extinguish the fire. However, when you're talking about a fire that is based on a lithium battery, right? A lithium battery that is in thermal runaway, you're talking about temperatures that exceed 2,000 degrees. So there's a significant difference. And I would encourage you to go on Google, go wherever you look to look at video and just look up what these fires look like relating to lithium ion batteries and thermal runaway. It's profound, it's significant. It's much like a blowtorch, and it's a significant difference between a typical, again, air quotes, typical residential style fire, whether it's a single family dwelling or if it's a apartment condo fire in a high rise or a mid rise building. I'm sorry, I keep forgetting to advance the slide on the show. But here, this is where we're at now. So, and this is probably the most important slide as it relates to today. So what can you do? And what we need from you is obviously to inform your residents. We need to inform your residents that their residential space shall not be used for commercial micromobility device charging. All right, we need the residential space shall not be used for commercial micromobility device maintenance. This all came about because we have seen this happening in garden-style apartments, and the parking garages and other locations throughout high-rise apartment buildings. So we have seen this happen on a few occasions. Where and how? We're asking that you post these public service announcement materials throughout your building. Provide them in your mailers, provide them on your announcement boards, and also provide your residents the email address and the location where they can go and find this information on the Arlington County Public website. We do ask that you provide this section of the code as outlined in the notification portion of it in your sales or leasing documents and any formal types of communication. And when should you do it? Again, just to reiterate what we talked about with regards to the code, the tenant or occupant when they initially occupy the space, when they renew a lease, and then periodically thereafter, as you see necessary with your reminders that go out, whether it's your condo associations or whether it's your annual or biannual community meetings. We ask that you provide this information at that time as well. And all this information, Captain Heiner will provide. It was, you should have had the website in your initial, I believe, Nate, I don't want to speak out of turn, in the initial email that went out, and we will also send this out to all after our presentation today. So really, that's it. It's again a short 6-slide presentation. We didn't want to bore you with all the granular details, but we are available to answer questions for the next few minutes. And then again, if we cannot answer your questions directly today, we will get back to everyone in a written form that's on this email. I think that's all I have right now, Nate, and we'll go to questions when you're ready.
All right, thank you, sir. So I've inserted the link to the website in the chat. Every piece of material that Chief Cobb referenced can be found online. All those printables, the e-board, copy of a letter that you could give to residents, all that's available on the website for you to be able to use. And if anybody has any questions, please either put your hand up or type them in the chat and we will get them answered. All right, I'm not seeing any. If you can think of any additional questions, please email.
Sir, I got a quick question, sorry.
Yep, go ahead.
During our annual fire inspections, will the fire marshals be looking for these type of course, the codes in our fire inspections in our common areas?
Are you talking about whether or not you posted the materials? Is that what you're inquiring?
Yeah, that material or any type of charging stations that may be in areas that they're inspecting?
Right. They will be keeping an eye out in the common areas, looking for signs, if you will, of somebody charging these types of devices, specifically in the parking garages and areas that are not don't have a lot of foot traffic. However, as you know, we cannot go into each individual's residence to look for this. So this is really one of those things that's why the education up front is important on your part to post these materials. Again, there's no to answer your question specifically, we cannot come in and fine you for not putting these materials posted. We're asking again for a partnership here with our property managers and our building owners to work with us to prevent any potential harm that could come from charging these commercial devices. So if we see somebody or if we have an incident in a resident and we go in, let's just say it's even somebody has a cooking fire on their stove, but we see that, once we've made access and we have access regardless of the reason, if we see somebody conducting or charging commercial devices in their residence, then we do have the ability to find that particular resident, yes.
All right, thank you, sir. Similar, we'll keep it kind of in that line. How would you recommend that violations be reported? Do you want that handled directly to the ACFD or handle it through normal lease violation procedure?
Well, there's a couple things. You know, obviously, let me go back a second. The fire code is the law, is the state law of Virginia. A violation in the of the fire code is a misdemeanor in the state. Now, that being said, again, one of the reasons we're doing this today is education, right? There's significant portion of the population that don't understand the inherent risks of lithium ion, and that's why we're here today, is to educate our community and educate everybody, and why we want to start at this level. How you handle things internally, I would put that on you and your policies. If you want to give somebody a warning and you feel that that is sufficient for let's say the first strike, there's no way for us to come in and manage that for you, or to tell you that that's not the correct process. If you want to say you're going to have a no tolerance and you're going to report every one of these that you run across, then you can do that in one of two ways. You can either call the non-emergency line for the communications center, the E911, and have a fire marshal come out, or you can send us an email at Fire Code Inquiry. And Captain Heiner, if we could put that email address in the chat, if you want to send us an email, then we can follow up on it internally as well. So there's two ways to do that. If you want to have a no tolerance policy, which we're fine with. Again, internally, if you want to have a discussion with your management team, to make sure that everyone is informed of this, and maybe you do have one or two of these folks partaking in this behavior, and you want to make sure that they know from this point forward that this is not allowable. I think that's agreeable and understandable.
All right, next question. Can we allow Tesla cars to be charged in our garages?
The short answer is yes. There's no regulations currently in the building code or the fire code that prohibits the charging of EVs in your parking garage. I would, however, remind everyone that there's specific electrical requirements, and if you're going to be putting charging stations and so forth throughout your parking garages, you're going to need to go through the building department to get the proper permits. So again, at this point, there are no specific either fire code regulations or building code regulations that prohibit the charging of electric vehicles in parking garages.
What kind of fire extinguisher is required to extinguish this kind of fire? Would a traditional ABC work? But knowing the issue here is most of these require a pretty significant amount of water to cool down. Is that correct?
Yeah, unfortunately, there's no real fire extinguisher that is going to help in these types of fires. It may dampen it down a bit, but it produces its own energy, and there's no fire extinguishing agent other than water that is going to prohibit this. So if it's a small fire, even if it's your cell phone, let's say wireless headphones, our laptop, if you feel safe, and again, I'm not trying to provide a fire prevention class with regards to extinguishment here. So, the best thing to do is submerge any of these smaller batteries in your bathtub, your toilet, your kitchen sink, whatever, is submerge them in water. And that's the only way that they're going to be contained, right? It's never fully contained until all the built up energy that's in the device has been discharged. So even if you put it in water and the flames go away, once you bring it out of the water, if there's still stored energy in that device, there's potential for it to reignite. So the best thing if you have one of these fires is to, exit the area, close the doors behind you, sound the fire alarm, call 911, and allow us to come in and mitigate the problem.
All right. Thanks, sir. Okay, so just to reiterate, all the material for you all to be able to post within your buildings is available online at the website. We also emailed it to you all that were on the RSVP list, and we will send a follow-up email containing all of this material again to everyone who RSVP'd for this event. And with that, I'd like to thank everybody for their time. The link will be available in a few business days, and we will include that with our email. So I'd like to thank you all, and this concludes today's presentation.